My name is Rachel, and I grew up in a family where all the attention was focused on my older sister Emily. From a young age, I was accustomed to being compared to her and lacking recognition from my parents. Emily, 3 years older than me, was the shining star of the family. With her golden hair and clear singing voice, she was adored and admired by everyone. Family gatherings in our backyard always revolved around Emily. Under the big maple tree, she would often stand on a chair and sing popular songs. The endless applause, the compliments from aunts and uncles, and the proud looks in my parents' eyes made me feel like a faint shadow beside her. Emily was enrolled in singing, dancing, and even painting classes, while I, starting at the age of 10, had to explore the world on my own through old books on the shelf in our living room. I loved reading and learning about astronomy and history, but my interests never received any attention from my parents. I often heard remarks from relatives. "Rachel is nothing like Emily. She's quiet and doesn't stand out." Those words felt like knives cutting into my young heart, making me feel inadequate and unworthy. My parents didn't hide their favoritism either. All their investments were for Emily. I remember when I was 12, they saved up to buy her an expensive piano to support her practice, while I was left with her old bike, its wheels squeaking and brakes screeching. Whenever Emily won awards in singing competitions, she would be rewarded with new clothes or modern toys. As for me, even when I scored the highest in class on a math test, the most I received was a reluctant nod and a comment like, "Yeah, you did well." My childhood passed in the shadows, under the brilliance of Emily's spotlight and my parents' indifference. I realized early on that if I wanted to be acknowledged, I would have to find a way to step out from under her enormous shadow. Amid the indifference and constant comparisons in my family, the only person who truly saw my worth was Aunt Maggie. She was my mother's older sister, living alone in a cozy little house in the suburbs, a place I often escaped to whenever I felt suffocated at home. Aunt Maggie, with her neatly tied silver hair and warm eyes, always welcomed me with a tight hug and an encouraging smile. She never asked why I avoided family gatherings or why I didn't want to stay home. Instead, she would simply sit beside me and listen to whatever I wanted to share. Afternoons at Aunt Maggie's house were always filled with peace. We would sit on the wooden chairs on her porch, sipping tea and chatting. She would often ask, "Rachel, what are you reading today?" When I hesitantly handed her a book about astronomy or history that I loved, she would always show genuine interest. "You're so smart, Rachel. Never let anyone make you think otherwise," she would say, her eyes shining with pride. Her words felt like a soothing balm for the daily pain I endured. When I was 17 and learned that my parents wouldn't support me going to college, it felt like every door in front of me had slammed shut. I went to Aunt Maggie's house, trying to hide my sadness, but the tears came anyway. She listened quietly, not interrupting, and finally placed a hand on my shoulder. "Rachel, you don't have to go through this alone." I looked at her in disbelief, tears streaming down my face. "But you need that money for yourself," I stammered. She simply smiled. "Rachel, you are the future. Don't worry about me. I believe you'll do incredible things." Her offer wasn't just financial support. It was a vote of confidence that she placed in me. It was the first time in my life that someone believed in my abilities without needing me to prove or explain myself. She helped me apply to a public university and enroll in the management program I had always dreamed of. Throughout my college years, Aunt Maggie was not only my financial supporter but also my emotional anchor. Our regular phone calls became a constant source of encouragement. "You're doing so well, Rachel," she would say, every time I shared about my grades or a tough exam I had conquered. Aunt Maggie didn't just help me escape the unfairness in my family, she taught me how to value myself. She wasn't the mother I had, but she was undoubtedly the mother I needed. Thanks to Aunt Maggie, I found my path. A path I walked with confidence and belief in myself. The early days of college were when I truly felt a sense of freedom and opportunity. With Aunt Maggie's support, I enrolled at Illinois State University, majoring in management, a field I had dreamed of studying for so long. When I received my acceptance letter along with a partial scholarship for my academic achievements, I cried tears of joy. It was the moment I realized that all my hard work and perseverance had finally paid off. But college life wasn't easy. I had to work part-time at the campus library to cover the remaining tuition fees and pay for my living expenses. Late at night, when the dorm room lights had gone out, I would still be at my desk, immersed in textbooks on business management and strategic planning. There were times when the exhaustion was overwhelming, and I felt like giving up. But every time I thought of Aunt Maggie and the faith she had in me, I reminded myself, Rachel, you can't fail. Aunt Maggie has sacrificed too much to give you this chance. Beyond academics, I threw myself into extracurricular activities to build my skills and expand my network. I joined the business club, where I learned teamwork and problem-solving through real-world projects. Over time, I transformed from the quiet girl I used to be into someone confident and unafraid to speak up and defend my ideas. As my final year of college came to an end, I received incredible news. The university awarded me a full scholarship for the next semester, because of my outstanding academic performance and contributions to extracurricular activities. It was a turning point that eased my financial worries and allowed me to focus entirely on preparing for my Every step forward felt like proof, to myself and the world, that I, Rachel, was no longer the forgotten girl in the shadows. With determination and Aunt Maggie's unwavering support, I had risen above and achieved what I once only dared to dream of. I knew this was just the beginning of a promising journey ahead. After graduating from Illinois State University with top honors in management, I stepped into the real world with determination and big ambitions. One of the most pivotal moments in my journey was receiving a job offer from the Golden Plate, one of the most prestigious restaurants in Chicago. It wasn't just an opportunity to apply what I had learned, but a chance to prove my worth in a challenging professional environment. Initially, I started as an assistant manager, a role that demanded dedication and attention to detail. The first few days were far from easy. I had to adjust to the pressures of managing staff, handling demanding customer requests, and ensuring every aspect of the restaurant ran smoothly. At times, I felt overwhelmed. But as always, the image of Aunt Maggie and her unwavering belief in me kept me moving forward. I immersed myself in the work, learning from seasoned professionals, taking notes on even the smallest details, and constantly striving to improve. In just 2 years, I was promoted to general manager. This milestone was significant not just for the title, but as a testament to my relentless efforts. Under my leadership, the restaurant experienced remarkable revenue growth, and we earned numerous prestigious awards for service quality and customer experience. My dedication was recognized not only by the staff, but also by the leadership team, and some of their individual revenue goals. I was also recognized not only by the staff, but also by the leadership team. 3 years later, when Michael Reeves, the owner of the Golden Plate, decided to retire, he presented me with the biggest opportunity of my life: the position of CEO for the restaurant chain he had so meticulously built. The day he called me into his office and said, "Rachel, I've never seen anyone with your talent and passion. I believe you're the perfect person to carry this legacy forward," I could hardly believe my ears. At that moment I understood that every effort, every sacrifice, and every tear had been worth it. From a girl who was once overlooked, I had become the leader of one of the most renowned restaurant chains in the city. Most importantly, I had proven that true value isn't defined by others. It's created by ourselves. When I took on the role of CEO at the Golden Plate, my life turned to a new chapter, one full of challenges but also immense pride. Meanwhile, Emily, the older sister who had once been the center of our family, was heading down an unexpected path. One day, Aunt Maggie called me with a somber tone, telling me that Emily had returned home with some troubling news. She was unexpectedly pregnant and facing severe financial difficulties. I was stunned as I listened, my heart heavy, not just for Emily's decline but also for the lingering pain I still felt from the injustices of our past. Emily was no longer the shining star of the family she once was. My parents, who had placed all their hopes and attention on her, were now forced to confront a harsh reality. The man Emily had trusted to build a family with had left her after discovering she had been involved in another relationship. Amid the chaos, Emily was left with no choice but to find a job to support herself and her unborn child. Emily replaced many of her friends at Olivia, which after her second crash had effectively dismissed them. With limited options, she accepted a position as a server at Uncle Frank's restaurant. The very job my parents once tried to force on me after high school. When I learned the news, I went to the restaurant where she worked. Seeing Emily, who had once dazzled on the stage of our family, now carrying trays of food in a worn-out uniform, left me stunned. She no longer had the confidence she used to exude. Instead, her eyes looked tired, and her shoulders slumped under the weight of life's burdens. I sat quietly in a far corner, watching her work, my heart heavy with a mix of emotions I couldn't quite define. I didn't go there to mock her or to bring up old wounds. No matter what had happened between us in the past, Emily was still my sister, and I couldn't deny the ache in my heart seeing her in this situation. I left the restaurant without saying a word, but a sense of resolve began to grow within me. I knew that Emily was now facing her own life lessons, just as I had faced mine, and regardless of her mistakes, I sincerely hoped she would find a way to rise and move forward, just as I had. Emily's downfall wasn't just her story. It was a stark reflection of the contrast between our past and present. Growing up, Emily was always the favorite, showered with the best of everything. Family gatherings, expensive gifts, endless praise, all revolved around her, while I was left on the sidelines, quietly enduring. But now, as she faced the consequences of poor decisions and a lack of personal responsibility, Emily no longer enjoyed the unconditional support she once did. My parents, who had once cherished Emily as the star of the family, were now unable to do much to help her. Their finances had been drained after years of funding her art classes and luxurious lifestyle. The pride that once lit up their faces when they spoke about Emily had been replaced with disappointment. But more importantly, Emily, who had once shone so brightly, now had to learn how to face reality without the familiar safety net. At 21, seeing her current situation, I was struck by a profound lesson about perseverance, responsibility, and building self-worth. Emily had lived a life reliant on privileges without considering the consequences, while I had worked tirelessly each day to rise from the shadows. Now, life had made it clear to both of us, privilege alone isn't everything. It's persistence and determination that truly define success in life. I never thought that hearing my parents talk behind my back could hurt as much as it did. Especially after everything I had done to help them. One Sunday afternoon, while taking a break after a busy work week, I came across a video Aunt Maggie had posted on Facebook. At first, I thought it was just the usual family gathering clips that I no longer participated in. But when I pressed play, my world seemed to crumble. The video was 10 seconds long. That was all I had to watch before during the celebration. In the video, my parents were laughing with relatives, speaking about me with cruel words. "Does everyone think Rachel is so accomplished? She doesn't do anything, just enjoys the fruits of others' labor," my mom said, her tone dripping with sarcasm. My dad nodded in agreement. "Exactly. Everything the restaurant has achieved is thanks to Emily. Rachel is nothing more than a shadow." Their words cut deep, like knives slicing through my heart. How could they say such things when I had spent years supporting them, from repairing the roof to covering their monthly bills? I sat frozen, unable to process what I had just heard. A wave of anger, disappointment, and pain surged through me. Memories of wiring money for house repairs, helping pay their medical bills, and other acts of support came flooding back. Only now they were tainted with bitterness. As I scrolled through the comments below the video, I saw my parents trying to convince Aunt Maggie to take it down. But her response was simple and firm. "I don't know how to delete it, and even if I did I wouldn't. Rachel deserves to know the truth." Her words felt like a small balm on a deep wound, a reminder that not everyone in my family had turned their back on me. In that moment, I realized that even amid betrayal, there was someone who still stood by my side. After the shock of the video, I knew I couldn't continue living with the pain caused by the very people who were supposed to care for me. Sitting alone in my quiet apartment, I thought long and hard before making a decision. To cut ties with my parents and stop all financial support. The final message I sent them was short but firm. "I know everything. Don't contact me anymore. From now on, my financial responsibilities toward the family are over." In the days that followed, I felt a mix of emptiness and relief. There were no more desperate calls or overwhelming requests for help. I began focusing on myself, something I had never done before. Instead of chasing after the approval of others, I started searching for what truly brought me happiness. I enrolled in an advanced restaurant management course, attended leadership development workshops, and even carved out time to revisit my love for reading, something I had neglected for years. Step by step, I felt a newfound sense of freedom and peace that I had never experienced before. I knew deep down that I had chosen the right path. As I began to settle into my new life, something unexpected happened. Relatives who had once stayed silent or stood by as I endured unfair treatment started reaching out to me. They sent messages of encouragement, apologies, and even admiration for my resilience. Sarah, a cousin I rarely interacted with, wrote in an email, "Rachel, I've always admired how you rose above the unfairness you faced. You're the pride of our family, and I'm so sorry I didn't stand by you sooner." It wasn't just family. My colleagues at the Golden Plate also expressed their respect and appreciation for what I had achieved. Michael Reeves, the man who trusted me with the role of CEO, often encouraged me during meetings. "Rachel, your accomplishments aren't just luck. They're the result of hard work and an incredible willpower. You deserve every success you've achieved." These words of recognition became a powerful source of motivation, helping me see my own worth more clearly. From a forgotten girl, I had become someone who could no longer be overlooked. Ultimately, I realized that happiness doesn't come from seeking my parents' approval, but from knowing, deep within, that I am worthy. As CEO of the Golden Plate, I realized I wasn't just leading a renowned restaurant chain, I was affirming an important truth. A person's value isn't determined by their starting point or others' recognition, but by their effort and determination to rise. With every strategic decision and expansion plan, I could feel my growth. From a girl who was once overlooked, to a respected leader. On the grand opening day of the Golden Plate's 5th location, I stood on stage addressing hundreds of guests, including colleagues, partners, and those who had supported me along the way. In that moment, I saw Aunt Maggie sitting in the front row, her eyes filled with pride. It was then I realized I had overcome all the judgments, and proved not only my capabilities, but also healed the wounds of the past. The next year, I started writing for Aunt Maggie's on the side, to be my passion. As the ceremony ended, I walked over to Aunt Maggie, held her hand tightly, and said, "I couldn't have done this without you. You always believed in me, even when I didn't believe in myself." She smiled warmly, her voice filled with love. "Rachel, you achieved all of this because of who you are. And I know you'll go even further." The lesson from this story is that a person's value doesn't depend on others' recognition, but comes from their own effort and perseverance. Despite facing unfairness, comparisons, and a lack of support from her family, Rachel proved that with determination and hard work, any limit can be overcome. More importantly, the genuine support of someone who truly believes in you, like Aunt Maggie, can create incredible strength to help you achieve your dreams and affirm your worth. Share your thoughts about this story in the comments below. Don't forget to follow the channel, so you won't miss more inspiring and meaningful stories about family, perseverance, and the valuable lessons learned along life's journey.
As casually as though she were inviting me to lunch, she asked, "How about living at my place?" I had run out of things to say. After all, she, Susan, became my employer after serving as my team leader at my former workplace. It was approximately a year ago. 3 more months have passed since the story's start. The department had called out to me in a frustrated tone as soon as I got to the office that morning. "Hey, Mike, what on earth is this?" He tossed a brochure of brand new cell phone covers onto his desk as I approached it. Upon closer inspection, I noticed that the cell phone cover design was exactly the same as the one I had already finished. "You said you wanted to redo it, even though you got the go-ahead last time, didn't you?" "Yes, that's because I came up with a better idea, and so I discussed it with the leader." "And did you really sell your design elsewhere?" "No way, that's impossible." Here it was though. A different company was producing my rejected design. I didn't know why. I searched for assistance from Susan, my team leader. Then I recalled that she was out of town till tomorrow on a work trip. You're fired, effective today. Contract termination entails my termination. I was abruptly fired from the company after being unfairly charged. I design products for a living. Product designers create a wide range of things, from industrial apparatus to everyday essentials and domestic items. While some manufacturers use their own designers, others hire design firms to do the work. Before I was engaged as a contract employee at the design firm, I was in charge of product planning and manufacturing that placed design orders. However, I finally developed an interest in design and quit my position to study it at a national school. After that, I lost my job. I was at my desk packing up my things when I heard murmured voices coming from both sides. They were Ken and John, who joined different teams but both became contract workers around the same time as me. They were both worried about me. Did you really sell it? Ken said, glancing at my expression as I described the circumstances. No way, exclaimed John. There must be a mistake. Well, it's all right. I wanted to work on something bigger anyhow. I responded, acting as though I had a lot of leeway at best. I purchased some beer and some munchies from a local convenience store on my way home. I was frustrated and drinking at home. When the sun was still up, I began drinking, and by dusk, I was totally inebriated. You're home early, Mike. Why are you already intoxicated? Emily, my live-in girlfriend, had come home from work. She sighed deeply when I informed her that I had been dismissed, adding, I told you over and over to give up on being a designer. I met Emily at the manufacturer I used to work for. She still works there. She strongly opposed my career change, insisting that it would be more stable if I stayed with a large company. When I did change jobs, there was a gap between Emily and me. Shut up. I wanted to be a designer. What's wrong with that? In the end, was I wrong, or was I mistaken? I drank myself into oblivion, my head spinning, and I ended up passing out. The next day, I slept until just before noon on the living room floor. Emily had already gone to work. As I was drinking a glass of water just after waking up, the doorbell rang. When I opened the front door, there stood my team leader, Susan. Oh, just woke up. You look awful. Why? I'm coming in. She didn't wait for my response and just barged into the room. A bit of drowning your sorrows last night, she said, after seeing the large number of empty beer cans left on the table. Well, something like that. I'm going on a binge right now. It's lunchtime anyway. Come on, I've bought loads down at the town square. Let's eat together. Honestly, I had no appetite, but I had no choice but to say yes. More importantly, why did you quit the company? 2. What? Why is that all you can say? She laughed as she said this, looking at my surprised face. She had finished a business trip and had gone to the office that morning, where she was informed about the termination of my contract and the reason for it. She had gotten into an argument with the boss. She insisted that there was no way I would sell my designs to another company, but the boss was adamant that my designs had actually been productized. In the end, he rebuked her as team leader, saying, You've been negligent in your supervision. He said I was negligent, so I said then I'll take responsibility and I quit. She said this robustly while biting into a fried chicken drumstick. So now, because of me, you too. I've been at odds with that hard-headed man for a while now. She then looked at me seriously, adjusting her posture. You just left your job yesterday, and you haven't decided on your next job yet, right? Yes, I have no prospects. Then work with me. Work with you. I couldn't grasp the meaning, so she explained she had decided to take this opportunity to start her own design firm. She had been considering going independent and had saved up for it. The salary might be lower at first, but only for a little while. Just bear with it. In other words, She wanted me to be the first employee of her new design company. Sure, if you want me. She thanked me and offered both her greasy hands for a handshake. I shook her hands, though somewhat bewildered. Her hands were sticky from the fried chicken. Honestly, I was puzzled as to why she had invited me to be her first employee. Until then, she had been giving various orders to other team members, juggling multiple projects but rarely giving me advice, assigning me only one project at a time. I had always thought that I was neither expected nor evaluated. Now, even though she said she was starting a company, her home apartment served as both an office and a residence for the time being. It's all about cutting costs. Speaking of cutting costs, instead of relying on a lawyer for the company's registration, Susan did it herself by going to the local legal office. Of course, she was also running around for sales activities alongside that. Her past achievements paid off, and we were inundated with jobs for designs. I worked selflessly on those jobs. Sometimes work ended late at night, and I often stayed over at her home, which also served as the office. The company's name is S&T Design. When I showed the business card of the newly formed company to Emily a few days after returning home, she said, with a bored look, "What's her name again?" "Susan." "Susan, so the S is for Susan, and the T is because you're Tom. So it's Susan and Tom." Then Emily flicked the business card she was holding onto the table and glared at me. "What is it?" "Nothing, just thought you two must be getting along well." Emily was clearly jealous. She misunderstood the relationship between her and me in a strange way. We were only work partners, her and me. Since then, there was not just a gap between Emily and me, but a deep rift. Sometime later, on a Saturday, I had stayed over for 2 days and was catching up on the backlog of work. I was almost done. "How about taking off early today when you reach a good stopping point?" Susan seemed to care about me struggling just a bit more and wanted me to go home early. "I'll manage to finish by the end of the night." "Come on, you're overworking. Go home now. This is an order from your boss." I was patted on the shoulder by her and decided to wrap up work. I was about to call Emily, who was supposed to be home, but I stopped. I wanted to surprise her by coming home unexpectedly. I stopped by Emily's favorite bakery and bought a surprise cake as a gift. I opened the front door without making a noise. There were men's shoes I didn't recognize. I thought we had a visitor. I could hear the sound of a comedy show from the TV in the living room, but there was no sign of the visitor or Emily in the living room. "Where's Emily?" I opened the door to the bedroom. Emily was asleep on the bed, her head resting on the chest of a man I didn't know. "Emily? No." "Why are you back?" The man hurriedly got dressed, said something cheeky like, "See you later," to Emily, and hurried out. Emily sat on the bed with a sullen face, wrapped in a blanket. I threw the cake in its box at Emily, crammed my belongings into my backpack, and yelled, "I'll come back for the rest of my stuff later. I'll let you know before I come." I stormed out. I wandered the streets with nowhere to go. Of course, I couldn't possibly go back and stay at work. I thought about calling Ken or John, my fellow contract workers, and telling them what had happened. What am I going to say? That I broke up with the girl I was living with and moved out. Certainly, no doubt they would interrogate me, digging into every detail. Even I'm hurt by all of this. Drinking some booze and talking, I'm sure I'd end up crying. Eventually, I decided to stay in a comic book cafe until Monday morning. "Oh, were you off camping for the weekend?" she said on Monday, noticing my backpack as I was heading to work. "No, I've moved out of the house." "Did you have a fight with her?" "We broke up." She looked shocked for a moment, then said, "I don't know the details, but as a preface, why don't you live at my place?" As I hesitated, she added, "I don't mind at all. After all, you've stayed over plenty of times before." But that was for work. Never mind that. I found this old business card while I was sorting through some things. Look at this. The card she handed me was from when I was in charge of product planning at a manufacturer. Why do you have this? We exchanged cards a long time ago. You don't remember, do you? I was at the design company before the one I'm at now. I had no memory of it, but she had been in charge of the design when my company had hired her. Usually, we would have multiple meetings to finalize the design, including the concept and functionality of the product. I made a few revisions to the rough sketch, and the design was pretty much settled. But you, a rookie, came to observe the meeting. I was trying to recall the time while listening to her story about when we exchanged business cards. You were so stiff, barely looking at anyone's face, and your hands were shaking. I wondered if you were going to be okay as a newbie, she said with a chuckle. I could only respond with an embarrassed smile, feeling both pathetic and ashamed. At the end of the meeting, someone said, "Mike, tell us your thoughts." You were so nervous that your voice was cracking, and you said something completely off the wall. But it was something none of us would have ever thought of. I thought, what's with this, Emmer? What kind of ridiculous thing had I said? I couldn't remember. I thought that, but at the same time, I wondered where such an idea had come from, which I couldn't do. I thought I was frustrated. If this guy gets involved in design, won't it be something incredible? I can't lose to him with that. She stood up from her chair. I looked down, embarrassed. The point is, we've known each other for a long time, so it's fine. Don't worry about it. Just live here. The punchline of the story being that I should live here was confusing, but it somehow made me feel inclined to agree. Oh, but you'll have to see something awful every morning. What is it exactly? My face without makeup. I stayed at her house as a temporary place to live until I could find a new home. The layout had a living and dining room used as an office and her bedroom, plus one more room. She suggested I use that room, but I declined, opting to lay out a sleeping bag on the living room floor. When I slept, we sometimes ate together and sometimes separate, but since neither of us cooked much, we ordered delivery or ate food we bought outside. Thus began our strange cohabitation. In about half a month, I had passed. We were working in the room when her cell phone rang. Oh, Ken. Long time, no see. It seemed to be from Ken, my contract colleague. She listened to Ken's story, nodding, and said, "There is always next year. Don't be discouraged." Yeah, he's here living at my place. No, it's different. My home is currently a home office and company housing. She said this and hung up, laughing. Ken? As in that Ken? Yes, he says hi. From the conversation, it seemed that Ken knew I was living here. Ken didn't become a full-time employee. Just another one-year contract. We had a one-year contract, but one of us had been offered the possibility of being promoted to a full-time position after the term. In my mind, the ranking of excellence was Mike, Ken, and then John. Defying her expectations this time, John got the full-time position. Wait, does that mean in Susan's view I was the best? Hey, when you were the leader, you hardly gave me any advice and only assigned me one task at a time, right? What's wrong with that? Does that mean you didn't think much of me? Don't be foolish, it's the opposite, actually. The reason she didn't advise me was that there was no need to. She didn't make me multitask because she wanted me to focus on the cases she deemed important or difficult. Hearing that, I felt so happy that I wanted to jump for joy. After that, work went smoothly. Though I was planning to find a new place to live right away, the end of the year was approaching, and I was still living in her apartment. It's cold today, she said, stamping her feet in front of the space heater after returning from outside. They say there's a big cold wave coming. Well, I can't be defeated by a cold wave. There's a lot of work ahead. She had secured a new business opportunity upon visiting a client. However, it was a competition with another company. If we won the competition, it would lead to continued orders. The schedule is tight, only 1 week until the competition. On top of that, that company will also participate. That company, the company that gave us the opportunity to start our S&T design. She also invited me over, saying she'd gotten interesting news. The designs I had rejected were sold to another design firm by our contract colleague, John. In his eagerness to be promoted, he tried to sabotage me to reduce competition. The company that bought the design from John also had other stolen designs and was reported by the client, and thus John's actions came to light. John was fired just a few months after becoming a full-time employee, and another contract employee again became full-time. For the next week, I worked day and night on the design for the competition. The night before the competition, I finally finished the design drawing. I was so relieved that I fell asleep with my head on my desk. Hey, you'll catch a cold like that. She had been resting in her bedroom and came to check on the workspace, where the lights were still on. Though I fell asleep, the design is ready. It's right here, she said. I know, and put her arm under mine to help me stand. I'm fine sleeping back. Come here, my bed's warmer. We won the competition, and the company grew. We established a new office and hired about 5 employees. As for me, I'm still living in her house, not just as a work partner, but as a life partner. You can do whatever you want with me as long as you can figure out this problem. It took place at our reunion from middle school. An ex-classmate who had become an exquisite beauty gave me a challenging arithmetic problem that was written in English. In middle school, she bullied me. This was probably simply a continuation of that. This issue is referred to as the master demon, and very few people even solved it at the International Mathematical Olympiad. But you should be able to figure it out quickly, given how much of a study nerd you were back then, right? Yes, I did manage to solve it. What did you just say? Wait. I claim to have found the solution. She murmured, "It's correct," looking frustrated as I showed her the solution. The air of surprise filled the room. How come? How could you resolve that? The whisper around us grew louder as my friend disclosed who I truly was. I said, "I'll do as I please," as promised. At those remarks, the color disappeared from her face. This could be considered a turn of events. My name is Colin, and I returned to my hometown after 10 years. I murmured, taking her pallid hand. I returned for my middle school reunion. I have to admit that I don't remember those times very well. My already impoverished family endured more difficulty after my father passed away in an accident. Upon witnessing my mother's unceasing labor and sacrifice of all her joys to provide for my sister and me, I made a firm decision to secure a solid career and ease her burden. I devoted all of my middle school time to studying because of this. One of my classmates made fun of me for it. Katie was her name. She was the daughter of the CEO of ZEL Publishing, a company that offered correspondence courses and had grown across the country. She never failed to find a way to criticize me harshly. She would claim that everything I owned was used, or that I was just a destitute little child who only enjoyed studying. My pencil case, textbooks, and shoes were all hidden by her. I kept it to myself and didn't inform my mother or professors because there was no evidence that Katie was the one responsible. I'd heard that Katie would also be going to the reunion. Just be honest. I would have rather just skip it and make up an excuse, like stating I had plans. I couldn't resist, though, when my friend Samuel, who was in charge of the event, said, "I really want to see you." However, I later told myself, it's okay. I couldn't help but confide in my mother about my worries before leaving for my homeland, and she gave me comfort. I'm sure everyone has grown up in 10 years, so you probably won't hear any harsh comments. You were a son I could show off to anyone, even back then. Keep your head up. I know you worked hard to study for me. Recalling my mother's advice, I stood up straight and headed to the reunion location. The reunion took place in a hotel close to our former middle school, in the magnificent ballroom. The location had just undergone renovations, and it was really attractive. The dinner was presented as a buffet. Following a group toast delivered by our organizer Samuel, everyone was free to start having fun, grabbing food or catching up with old pals. Colin, long time no see. Samuel approached me as I was unsure of what to do. Just the two of us raised a toast and clinked glasses once more. I apologize for not being able to get together since we started working. My work demands so much of me. It's mutual because I'm busy too. Is that accurate? Colin, if my memory serves me well. Samuel opened his mouth to say something, but I heard a voice. Well, is that Colin? When I turned, I saw a stunning woman. I knew her right away as Katie. Even though she was very attractive in middle school, she had become even more gorgeous. It's been a long time. It's been since then since I attended a different high school, right? Yes, I did move out after that. Oh, really? Despite your great marks, I surmised that you didn't attend the same high school since the cost of tuition was too exorbitant for you. However, I suppose you could afford to relocate, huh? Katie mockingly pretended to be surprised. Her buddy Lily, who was standing next to her, laughed at me. Samuel scowled behind his closed eyes. Katie, although your appearance has improved, it appears that your heart remains unchanged. Well, Samuel, thank you for the compliment, but if you hang out with him, you might catch poverty. I won't come across anything similar. It's all right, Samuel. Now. I'm all right. Samuel attempted to defend me until I soothed him. And with that, Katie looked back at me. Your timidity has not changed at all. You mean that at the time I was the one hiding your belongings, you couldn't even tell anyone. So, it turned out to be you. Colin stated he lacked proof, so he remained silent. So what about this then? You can do whatever you want with me as long as you can figure out this problem. At that point, Katie took out her phone and presented it to me. Samuel gave it a couple taps before taking a side view and pulling a look akin to having ingested something bitter. Whoa, an English language issue. You can't fix it if you can't even read it. The other students noticed what Samuel had said and started to assemble to find out more. Katie grinned at her growing following. Indeed, and that issue is known as the Master Demon. It is incredibly challenging, with a very low percentage of accurate answers even in the International Mathematical Olympiad. But you should be able to figure it out quickly given how much you studied in middle school, right? Yes, I did the right thing. There's no way. What did you just say? Wait. Colin, I said I had the solution. Samuel gave me a piece of paper and a pen, and I scribbled down the response. I didn't want to use my phone in case someone assumed I was unfaithful. Katie grabbed the paper from me and gave it a close look. That's right. The enthusiasm in the audience around us was palpable. How come? How could you resolve that? Lily let out a shocked cry. She was not alone in her disbelief. Everyone else nodded in accord. Colin can read English, of course. He graduated from Oxford. Yet even I'm shocked that he was able to solve such a challenging math problem. Samuel spoke for me when he noticed that I was hesitant to explain. The audience began to swell, and the voices of surprise became even more audible. It was Katie, her jaws clenched in exasperation. Stop lying. An impoverished child like you could never have attended Oxford, much less studied overseas. In actuality, my mom's second marriage was the reason we relocated. Mr. Thompson, the CEO of Thompson Electronics, is her spouse. Ethan Adams Electronics, that is a large business. I mentioned my father's company, and the excitement in the room increased even further. My dad urged that I aim for Oxford University after seeing my marks, even though I had given up on finishing high school. Consequently, I left Japan to attend high school abroad, worked hard in my studies, and was accepted into Oxford. So, Colin, what are your next steps? I'm a consultant for my dad's business. I occasionally accept projects from different businesses. Whoa, that's quite amazing. More and more people started to assemble as word got out. I had never been so surrounded by people before, and the sensation made me feel lightheaded. Hey, stop pushing. Amidst the chaos, the group of people pushed Katie, who was in front of me. Her dress was splattered with someone's alcohol. Hi. Who let their drink pour over me? I damaged my dress. You realize how pricey this was. People in the vicinity started to keep their distance as Katie raged, her face flushed red. Katie gave everyone around her a fierce gaze as no one would admit to being accountable. Lily was standing in front of her. She had a snide look on her face, aimed toward Katie. Sorting, so much for a small spill. Katie, you must be under a lot of stress. Given the recent decline in revenue for your company, I suppose it makes sense. Lily, what are you talking about? Why do you? You know, you're not so amazing after all. Colin consistently outperformed you in terms of grades, but you treated him with contempt and bullying, just as you treated everybody who performed better than you. That's what I've always detested about you. Simply because you were the daughter of a successful CEO, you gave off an air of grandeur. Did your father also pay for your entrance into high school and college? Lily's remarks made Katie's face look pale and red at the same time. Lily's smile got bigger as she saw her response. By the way, Katie, didn't you just state that if Colin figured out the problem, he could do whatever he wanted with you? Colin, what are you going to do? Maybe she's suitable for a one-time fling before you discard her because she has the beauty. That took the color right out of Katie's face, and Lily put her arm around mine. But I would feel envious, even for a single instance. Why not pick me instead if you're going to do that? I'm sure I can genuinely please you, unlike her. I looked at Katie. She was holding the hem of her soiled dress tightly, biting her lip in irritation. That's not to say I was fond of her, but I nevertheless took Lily's arm and carefully unwrapped it. She gave me a startled expression. You claimed that Katie harassed me, yet Lily, you also engaged in bullying behavior. You mocked me while standing by her side. I just don't see much of a difference between the two of you. Lily was starting to pale now. I ignored her and grabbed Katie's hand. Let's go, Katie. Hey, I take it that you said I could do anything I wanted. Katie let me lead her out of the building while she continued to look stunned. When we went outside, the sky had fully darkened. Katie's shivers were palpable through my hand. We reached the closest station. I looked up at her. Katie, take that off. What? You pervert, what are you talking about? Katie took a step back and realized how that sounded. Her face flushed. Hurrying to explain, I said, No, I didn't mean to say that. If you continue to wear such damp clothes, you will get a cold. Up until yesterday, I was in England, and my sister asked me to bring some clothing back from there. You can slip into one of those as your heights are approximately the same. I went to the locker to get the paper bag I had kept there and gave it to Katie. She opened the bag, looked inside, then went to use the station's restroom. I'm done changing. I was shocked when Katie came back. She'd changed into an outfit with a deep V-neck that showed off a good deal of cleavage. What? You're the one who gave me these clothes. I instantly looked away as Katie tried to cover her chest after blushing. Although I had seen the outfit before I purchased it, I was unaware of how revealing it was. Actually, my sister had just revealed that she was seeing someone. I assumed she was planning to wear it out on a date. It made me feel a bit conflicted. Katie looked up at me with hot cheeks as I turned around and tugged gently at my sleeve. Hey Colin, would you like to grab another drink if you're game? Take it as a thank you for assisting me with my wardrobe changes. Well, if you're okay with it, Katie. We eventually came to a tiny tavern by the station in the back streets. Since none of our old classmates from the reunion were likely to visit, there weren't many other patrons. Katie didn't have to worry about getting caught drinking. Once our nibbles and beverages arrived, we had a quiet moment. I tried to think of anything to say, but I was at a loss for words. While I was scratching my head, Katie sighingly put down her cup. "Colin, you have to be secretly laughing at me. It's quite sad where the girl who tormented you so much has ended up." I turned to face Katie, who was grinning sorely. She put her chin on her hand and requested another drink. I was the only child born, despite my father's constant desire for a son. Perhaps this is the reason he reared me so rigidly, constantly encouraging me to keep moving forward and not let being a female get in the way of my goals. It worked for me in elementary school, but you came along in middle school, and I was no longer able to stay at the top. To make up for it, I started making fun of your family and putting you down. I truly believed at the time that this made me better, but I now see how mistaken I was. It was Katie's plum wine. She took a drink. "It seems like you saw Lily today. Although I've always considered her a close friend, hearing her speak in that manner. I was the CEO's daughter, therefore that's why she was with me. The rest were probably the same. I have never had even one true buddy." With a gentle set down of her glass, Katie's eyes gleamed with unshed tears. My heart began to hurt a bit. I ought not to have attended the reunion. I wouldn't have felt so depressed or had to hear Lily's actual feelings if I hadn't. "I don't think that's true." Katie scowled at what I said. "Eventually, you would have discovered Lily's actual emotions. I believe it is better that it took place now. It hurts more the longer it takes. And if you find yourself at your lowest point yet, there's only one direction to go: upward." After staring at me in disbelieving silence, Katie started to cry. "Colin, you're such a good person to think you'd comfort someone like me." Her weeping did not seem to be going to stop. I reached inside my bag and pulled out a rumpled handkerchief, which I gave to her. "Sorry, I didn't mean to start crying like this." "It's all right. It's better to cry when necessary." She started crying even more after that. The proprietor of the pub regarded us with suspicion, which alarmed me a little. "Maybe we ought to go outside now. Taking a breath of fresh air could help you relax." With a nod, Katie continued to hold onto the handkerchief, and I guided her out of the pub. We were greeted with a chilly early summer breeze. Steering clear of the livelier parts of town, we strolled toward Katie's house. She continued to wail softly at first, but as we walked, her sobs became quieter and soon stopped. Then she gave me a worried-looking glance. "Colin, are you not planning to board a train?" "You don't have to walk me the entire distance because my house is located in the opposite direction from the station. I would never allow you to walk home alone at night. I will ensure your safe return home." Katie's eyes filled with tears once more, but she held back this time. We kept strolling alongside each other. We soon found ourselves in front of Katie's residence. "Colin, I appreciate you walking me home." "Thank you so much. Katie, good night." A tiny tug on my sleeve stopped me as I turned to return to the station. "I guess we could get together again sometime." I felt a sudden rush of warmth run down my body as she stared at me with those still moisturizing eyes and her cheeks flushed slightly. "You know, I still have to give back your clothes and handkerchief." It finally dawned on me. Yes, I nearly thought she was misintentional for a brief minute. Yes, we'll get together once more soon. Katie's head tipped slightly at my answer, curious. Just then, a voice cried out to her from within her home. "Are you back, Katie?" "Oh, yeah." With haste, Katie turned and went inside her home. I left her behind and returned into the night as soon as I saw the door close. A few days later, I was in Zeller's Publishing's corporate office. Mr. Stewart, the CEO of the company, had asked me to provide my consulting skills. "You're Colin, then. I've been hearing a lot about you. You work for Mr. Thompson as his right-hand man at Thompson Electronics, and you have successfully turned around multiple businesses. We are also depending on you to assist us." Naturally. The CEO's office door opened as we shook hands firmly, and Katie entered with an apology. When she spotted me, her eyes widened with surprise. "Allow me to present you. This is Katie, my daughter. Colin from Thompson Electronics here, Katie. He's the guy I hired to assist us in turning around the business. Please help him if you can in any way." Yes, without a doubt. As soon as we left the CEO's office, Katie was clearly shaken. "Why didn't you inform me that you would be visiting my company the other day?" "I apologize. I was bound by a confidentiality agreement." "Oh, I see. I didn't bring your handkerchief today, but I suppose that's not something that can be avoided." "Stop worrying about it." Katie pouted in disapproval when I smiled. Is it just me, or do her cheeks appear slightly flushed? "So, Katie, what role do you play here?" "I oversee the Department of Digital Marketing. I'm hoping that by doing well here, my father will at last see my potential." Her excitement was charming to me, but suddenly her eyes lowered to the ground. "But nothing is going smoothly. Many folks are moving on." "What excuses do they offer for their departure?" "I'm not sure. I don't make inquiries. Why should we retain unmotivated individuals? It merely reduces effectiveness." It was impossible for me not to sigh. Katie grimaced at my response. "Or perhaps you possess something to discuss. Simply state it. It's simply some consultant advice. It's not a complaint. You must give your staff your whole attention." "Katie, do you actually get to see your workers?" "Collaborating with them?" "No, I spend most of my office time alone myself. Because I'm the CEO's daughter, when I do interact with them, they either appear resentful or they flatter me. Either one is always the case. That contributes to the issue. Together, let's go have a look." I made Katie show me around even though she didn't want to, and we went to the Department of Digital Marketing. A man appeared to be about to wring his hands as he hurried over with an excessively enthusiastic smile as we approached. "Ah, Katie, it's so unexpected to see you here. Can I be of any assistance to you?" "No, nothing exists. He merely requested for a tour of the department from me." "Regret the unexpected interruption. Would it be acceptable for me to watch you at work today?" I asked, and the man working there gave me a reluctant, sure, kind of expression. "Katie, please come work in this department today." "Well, that's okay." Reluctantly, Katie left her office and grabbed her laptop. She sat down at an empty desk and got to work. Katie was normally not around, so her sudden entrance in the department created tension. "Just go about your work as usual, please, everyone." Having said that, I am aware that helping is not always simple. I made tea for individuals who seemed like they could use a break and asked the staff if there was anything I could do to help. By the time lunch was finished, the mood had somewhat subsided and people had grown accustomed to Katie's presence. One of the female employees' phones rang during that period. Running out into the corridor, she answered the call. The woman came back and gave Katie a frightened look before turning to face the man who had talked to us before. With hesitation, she said, Excuse me." He let out a loud, annoyed sigh. "Is your kid sick once more?" "I apologize. I swear I'll make it up to you tomorrow." After apologizing several times, the female employee grabbed her bag and hurried out of the office. I approached the man working there. "Is this something that usually happens to her?" "Indeed, it is. Our job is delayed every time she departs, therefore it's a serious issue." He sighed wearily. It would be easier to manage if we knew ahead of time that she would be absent. After all of that, plus other things, the workday came to an end. While a few workers stayed for overtime, the majority went after an hour. "Katie, after spending a day in department, what are your thoughts?" After the room was empty, I asked her. She appeared distressed. "Well, I believe that woman who left early today might be the next to quit." Though I knew there were others here balancing job and family responsibilities, I was unaware of their feelings of guilt about departing early. Katie called that woman worker into her office the following day. The worker reappeared after approximately 30 minutes, appearing rather relieved. After that, Katie called in the other workers who were also juggling work and children, and she spent around half an hour with each of them. She beckoned me into her office after the last person departed. I paid attention to what they said. Most of them agree that it would be easier for them to leave when necessary and that, depending on the circumstances, they might begin work earlier or later. I understand. Then, how about putting in place a superflex time system? What? As of right now, the company requires employees to work from 9 to 6. The employees could set their own start and end times under a superflex time arrangement. If need be, they might even depart during the day, depending on how their hours are established. That seems like it might take care of the issues they brought up. Katie put her hand on her chin, lost in contemplation. I would like to put this to my father. To be honest, I'm not sure if I can adequately explain it to Mr. Stewart. Are you going to accompany me? Naturally, of course. We went to the CEO's office together and discussed the concept of a superflex time system, including its advantages and possible disadvantages. We recommended that the Department of Digital Marketing conduct a trial run. Mr. Stewart stated, "It's a little hazardous, but since Colin suggests it, let's give it a shot. However, we'll discontinue it right away if performance declines or doesn't get better." The CEO concurred. Katie smiled broadly at his endorsement. The Digital Marketing Department's Superflex Time System trial was an overwhelming success. Not only did the mothers commend it, but so did other workers, stating things like, "It's made caring for my parents easier, and I don't have to deal with crowded trains." The department's general mood seemed to have improved. The first month's performance for the department was the best on record. After seeing these outcomes, the CEO made the decision to apply the Superflex time method to every department. Katie and I made in-person visits to every department to help them with the changeover. As we were heading back, Katie blurted out, "Thank you, Colin," after giving the product development department an explanation of the system. The staff members in charge of digital marketing have been telling me lately that I've changed. They remark that I used to behave like the haughty daughter of a CEO, but that these days I pay attention to them and genuinely try to make things better. They now consider me to be an excellent boss. My pulse raced when she gave me a hesitant smile, one I had never seen on her before. "Colin, you are the reason for all of this. As a consultant, you gave me the support and guidance I needed. I'm really grateful to you." That said, she gave me a quick bow of the head, told me to wait, and disappeared into her office. She returned with a paper bag in her hand. "I wanted to give you a small token of my gratitude, and I brought back your clothes and handkerchief." "Thank you, but you didn't have to go to all that trouble. May I now have a look at it?" "Yes, hopefully you enjoy it." Katie nodded, a little heat to her cheeks. A beautifully wrapped box was inside the paper bag, along with the clothes and handkerchief. I discovered a tie when I opened it. It was a very gorgeous garment, rich red with embroidered golden maple leaves. This had to have cost a lot of money. "It's nothing to worry about. I believed it would fit you well." "Ah, I see. I'm grateful. Still, it's pretty pleasant. It's nearly too good. I may not always be able to use it." "Then reserve it for exceptional moments," Katie remarked with a light-hearted smile. But things weren't the same this time. She had a really endearing expression that made her look adorable. I was called into Mr. Stewart's office as the company was starting to gain speed and the Superflex time system was starting to take hold across all divisions. "Our company is starting to show indications of recovery because of your advice. Both employee happiness and the number of job applications are rising. Thank you so much, Colin." "Please don't thank me. I just gave you some advice, and one of your advantages is your modest demeanor. I'd like to make you a proposal. I would like you to serve as the branch president of our company's proposed foreign branch." "Me? The head of state?" "Indeed. Did you graduate from Oxford University? Thus, your English ought to be flawless. You seemed like the best option to me. Do you not wish to go beyond consulting and assume a position of leadership in the international arena? His remarks caused me to wrinkle my brows in doubt. Mr. Stewart, though, what about Katie? Your daughter deserves to be president because she was instrumental in this achievement. Oh, Katie? No, she isn't competent. The idea that she could manage it is ridiculous. That would be one thing if she had thought of this on her own, but she didn't, did she? She would be more effective running a small regional office. Even though he wasn't talking about me, shock and rage shot through me. Give me some time to think over this offer. Naturally. I hope to hear back from you favorably. I experienced a tiny discomfort as I watched Mr. Stewart merrily wave me off with a smile. I entered the hallway, still feeling bad, and then abruptly halted. Katie stood directly in front of me, looking pale. Katie, did you hear the conversation we had? Before I could finish my remark, she gave me a curt nod. She then forced a smile at me, one that seemed ready to crack at any second. That's incredible, Colin. You are truly extraordinary. Proceed to assume the role of president. You and my father can take care of the business. She turned away swiftly after that. Something glistened and dropped to the ground. I stretched out and grasped her arm without thinking. Give me up. Katie averted her eyes from me and her voice faltered. Let's talk in another location. We went outside into the back garden of the business, and I held on to her arm. We don't have to worry about getting noticed because not many people visit this location. I wasn't shocked to see that she was crying when I turned to face her. It's not like you to tell me to take command. Do you really believe this is the appropriate thing to do, Katie? You've put in a ton of effort to get this stage. With a little of lip, Katie looked down. She then gave a head shake. It was insufficient. My efforts were insufficient. Colin, I should have worked just as hard to get into Oxford as you did. That is untrue. Katie, you put in enough effort. You did, I'm sure of it. Every day, I used to watch you studying in the park by the middle school. You didn't want anyone to see you, which is why you picked such a remote location as opposed to the town or school library, where you might be seen. How were you aware of that? Katie gave me a startled expression as she gazed up at me. I happened to find you there. Even though you were already impressive, it inspired me to see how hard you worked. I challenged myself in my studies because of this. Thanks to the effort you put in back then, I was able to get into Oxford and am here now. That isn't achievable. In an attempt to regain her confidence, Katie lowered her head once more. I took her hand softly. Why do you work, Katie? Why do you put in so much effort at work? For the sake of my father, I joined this company. I aspire to be someone who could always prevail over others by taking his advice to heart. But she looked up, and I could see my reflection in her bright eyes. It's not for my father anymore, though. I wish to work for individuals. I was thrilled also when I modified our workflow according to your advice and saw everyone's happiness. Katie's resolve as she gazed at me was more beautiful than anything I had ever seen. I had to squint since it was nearly blinding. Katie, I would like to encourage your dream. I would like to support you. No, Colin. I'm not worthy of your help. I've harmed you horribly in the past. You did indeed harm me in middle school, but I have forgiven you for those things because I now care about you so much. I'm in love with you right now. Katie's eyes widened in surprise as she said, Katie. Then her cheeks slowly started to flush. Affection? I don't believe I deserve that. Don't belittle yourself. You're the type of person who can own her mistakes and grow from them. You're a great woman and a diligent worker. I clamped down harder on her hand. Her rounded eyes began to well up with tears. Colin, I adore you too. You've always been there for me, and I appreciate how dedicated you are. Katie clutched to me, still in tears. I put my arms around her tightly yet softly. After she had calmed down, we went together to the CEO's office. "Mr. Stewart, I must share with you something." When Mr. Stewart saw the determined expression on Katie's face, he scowled. "I am leaving the company." "How come?" "What topic are you discussing?" "Katie, if you leave this company, you have nowhere to go." "I'll be all right. I'm launching my own company." "Launching a company? That is absurd. You're just a talentless, worthless woman." His angry words caused Katie to clench her fists in frustration. I moved forward to speak for her. "You shouldn't be concerned about her. I will stand by her side." "Colin, you? Are you implying that you will accept Katie's lead and reject my offer?" "Yes, that is accurate." Mr. Stewart started giggling. "This is very wealthy. You're wasting a fantastic chance to take the lead by following this failure." "Colin, I never imagined you could be so stupid." "All oak, do what you want. If you can, give it a try. You'll fail and become bankrupt very quickly, I'm sure." Mr. Stewart laughed mockingly, but I ignored it, taking Katie's hand and letting her leave the CEO's office. That was the first time my father called me outright a failure. Katie's eyes began to well up with a few light tears. I used my fingers to gently wipe them away. "You're not a failure, Katie. We'll disprove him." She gave me a glance, and as she nodded, her face lit up. I made the decision to launch our own consulting business with Katie. It was easy to draw in new business because big firms recognized me as an excellent consultant. That's why the firm was back on track very fast. I guess it was the proper decision to launch my consulting business because I had expected this. Soon after starting the business, Katie started training to become a consultant herself. She quickly obtained credentials as a tax accountant, a certified public accountant, and a small and medium enterprise consultant. She still managed to impress me, and even more so. Her extraordinary communication skills were something I had noticed even when she was a department head at Zellers Publishing. She gives clear directions after paying close attention to the client's demands. She's only been consulting for a little over a year, but because of this, she already has a large clientele. Our business grew so quickly that after about 6 months, we recognized we needed help managing things, so we started hiring staff. Upon communicating that we were willing to consider candidates without prior consulting experience, a number of Katie's previous subordinates expressed their eagerness to become part of our team. "I'd like to work for Katie once more." When Katie heard this, she started crying uncontrollably. We gathered their support as we both felt that recruiting reliable employees was essential. Everything was going well. There was adequate staff, and performance was increasing gradually. Then Zellers Publishing sent us a request. For some time, there had been rumors that the company's finances were getting worse. It was said that they were shutting down branch offices one by one. We were the ones they turned to in desperation. "Kate, what are your thoughts?" "If you don't feel comfortable with it, you can decline." With a serious attitude, she answered, "No, I'll go." So together, we went to Zellers Publishing. When we got to the entryway, I was surprised to see that there was no receptionist. "How do we schedule a meeting with Mr. Stewart?" Just as Katie and I were exchanging confused glances, Mr. Stewart emerged from behind. Compared to our previous meeting, he appeared much more lethargic and worn out. "I appreciate you being here. To be honest, I was afraid you may say no after what I said." His lifeless gaze locked with ours. Then he fell to his knees and lowered his head abruptly. "Please, keep my business alive. One by one, workers are quitting, and the company is losing ground. I am at a loss for ideas on how to stop it. I'm sorry for what I did. Help us, please, please." "Please, Dad, get up." Katie bowed down in front of Mr. Stewart and held out her hand. "I understand the significance of this business to you. You created it from scratch with blood, sweat, and tears. That's why I will assist. I adore you and this firm, despite the hurtful things you said." Mr. Stewart glanced up at Katie and squeezed her hand, tears streaming down his face. "I apologize, Katie. I really apologize for making you put up with my severe upbringing. And yet, I got so conceited. I used to feel that working for me was natural for you and everyone else. But I didn't understand how mistaken I was until I reached my lowest point. I apologize sincerely." With a smile, Katie assisted him in standing up. "Dad, if you're at your lowest point, the only direction left is up, right?" Katie gave me a look and slightly protruded her tongue as she was speaking. I couldn't resist grinning. "Indeed, you are correct." I had no idea how appreciative I would be to someone for lending a helpful hand during such a trying moment. I will always remember this, even in the event that the business fails. That is not going to happen. Dad, I'll watch out for your business. After hearing Katie's astute statement, Mr. Stewart was able to smile at last. Katie's efforts were important in the successful turnaround of Zeller's Publishing. Katie and I tied the knot a year later. Our wedding took place at a hotel close to our former middle school, which is where we started this new chapter of our lives. Now let's toast to the happy couple with our glasses, with our master of ceremonies, Samuel, making a toast. The lunch was soon being enjoyed by all. We had invited friends and old classmates in addition to our families and relatives. I grinned at the reception's cozy and upbeat vibe. At that moment, Samuel came over to us. "Colin and Katie, congratulations. When we had that reunion, I never would have imagined that you two would get married." "I didn't either," I answered. "Neither am I," Katie replied. Katie and I had a brief chuckle as we both agreed with Samuel's statement. "Colin, that tie really is nice." Samuel gestured to the tie Katie had given me, which had a maple pattern. "I had to wear it today as it's the first gift Katie ever gave me." Katie blushed and looked down shyly when I stated this. Samuel grinned as he observed us, obviously happy. "Yes, exactly. Hello, Lily." Samuel turned abruptly and yelled out to Lily, who had been staring uneasily in our direction. Lily winced a little and approached cautiously. Samuel tapped her on the shoulder gently. "Go ahead. You must say something, don't you?" "Yes, well, Katie and Colin, congrats on your union, and I apologize for the awful things I said during the get-together." Lily lowered her head, her voice quivering. Katie and I looked at each other. With a comforting grin, Katie turned to face Lily. "Hold your head up. I wouldn't be sitting here with Colin, Lily, if you hadn't called attention to my shortcomings that day. That's why I truly appreciate you. Furthermore, I wouldn't have invited you to our wedding if I hadn't forgiven you, right?" Lily tried to stop the tears from welling up in her eyes. "This time, I would like to start over as friends. Not with you as the daughter of the CEO, but as Katie alone." "Obviously." With a beaming smile, Katie shook Lily's hand. Samuel gave me a jab in the ribs while I was admiring Katie's beaming smile. "Colin, you're a lucky man." "Unquestionably." I shot Samuel my best smile in answer to what he said. "No matter how hard you strive, some things in life will always be out of your reach. But that doesn't imply the travel was in vain if you weren't able to absorb them. Happiness is the result of the journey itself, which is always met with the recognition of someone who sees your efforts. I'll work even harder from now on to ensure that we have a good future together." There are ups and downs in life. You never know what's going to happen in life, as the phrase says. A series of unfortunate events follow one another and difficult times abound. But a small matter can cause life to shift drastically very soon. I'm Luke Smith, and I work in an office like everyone else. Every day I commute by train, yet I couldn't help but feel depressed. This is due to the fact that my business is a modest branch office with its main office located in a desirable part of downtown New York. A new employee from the headquarters is moving into my office as of right now. This guy is notorious for causing a lot of issues at headquarters, but since he is the CEO's relative and cannot be fired, he was unwillingly transferred, more like demoted, really, to our branch. The news that such a troublesome child will be placed under my department's supervision would be enough to depress anyone. I've led teams before, and I can attest to how difficult it is to get things done when there's a disruptive employee. All I can hope is that he's not on my team. That being said, I am also on a packed train today. I mean, it's better than being crammed in like sardines, I suppose. I kept looking at the throng of passengers who were riding the train as I was pondering this. I looked at a certain woman abruptly. She wore a checkered miniskirt and had long light brown hair and slightly heavy makeup. Is she a college student? Perhaps. She appeared to be a young woman, but her back had a big bear keychain that got tangled in the hem of her miniskirt. You could see quite a bit. That is to say, the pink item with the bear keychain was visible, and the skirt was no longer serving its purpose. She must be a true bear lover. No, that's clearly not good. Several passengers noticed, as one would anticipate, but none dared to say anything. Given that men make up the majority of the passengers, that makes sense. She is surrounded by ladies, but not many of them. If they are too preoccupied with their books or cell phones to notice. To abruptly inform a woman you don't know that her skirt is up would require a lot of guts. How awful is this? Oh boy. Indeed, when I looked about, isn't that kind of an odd situation? She is smiling at two lads who look like they are in high school. She is unaware and lost in her own world, absorbed on her phone. Boys in high school, who are going through a delicate period in their lives and are still adjusting to social conventions, make mistakes frequently. I could not look away from the fact that one of the males was pointing his cell phone at her. If I approached the high school boys, though, I might draw unwarranted attention. I hastily removed my jacket and slung it over her shoulders since I wanted to settle this amicably. It almost covers the vital bits, since I am taller. Astonished, the woman exclaimed, "What? Who?" Being gawked at by an unfamiliar person and having a jacket pulled over you is a normal reaction. "Your skirt is up," I whispered to her, and I thought, "You're going to have a hard time fixing this." Her face flushed as she finally realized what was going on. Oh my, how embarrassing is that? Well, I'll take care of it at the next stop. How much did you see? Wait. She was terrified. I got off the train with her at the next station, thinking this was not going well. I had no choice but to give up as I needed my jacket back, and she felt uncomfortable. "Wow, thank you so much. You're quite attractive. I would like to express my gratitude. Could you please provide your phone number?" Though, upon seeing her miniskirt, I had assumed as much, this woman was a bit of a flight attendant. I was astonished by how strong she came on, but I had a meeting this morning. I knew I was late when I looked at the clock. I gave her my business card and said, here, since I had to get to work as soon as possible. My business card is this one. Please don't hesitate to thank me and get in touch with me there if you need anything. The express train had just pulled into the station, so I boarded it. When I did get to work, I arrived at the meeting late, as was to be expected. The manager called me into the meeting room, despite the fact that I had informed them beforehand. "Luke, it's fine that you helped someone and were late, but bringing the wrong documents to a meeting is not okay." "Yes, I'm sorry. I was running late, and in my hurry, I picked up the wrong papers." I ended up embarrassing myself in the meeting as a result. Although I was relieved that I wasn't the only one feeling ashamed, restless conduct is generally bad for a member of society. My department manager remarked, "Well, what's done is done," while I was apologizing. "Take steps to ensure that doesn't occur again." Let's get to the actual problem at hand. My manager gave me a piece of paper after saying that, being a compassionate man, he rarely calls me into his office in this manner, so clearly something important has happened. I took the paper he handed me and started to read. "What's this? I really apologize for this. I want you to start training the new hire today," my manager stated, his expression contorted. Whoa. Are you telling the truth? I'm required to mentor the new hire, who is the CEO's relative who was unmanageable at headquarters. Why me? I inquired. Well, the thing is, the headquarters specifically requested you today. What did he explain? I let out an almost scream. I don't often visit the headquarters, and I haven't done anything special to make the HR department there remember me. Why, I have no accomplishments. Was I chosen? Just as I was going crazy over this perplexing circumstance, boom. The department manager's irate subordinate burst through the door of the conference room. He cried out, "Sir, we've got a serious problem." What's happening? I'm currently having a meeting with Luke, the manager answered. It has to do with the recent hire. The CEO of the main office would like to meet with you. Luke, how come? The manager let out a startled cry this time. What had he just said, while I was still trying to process what was happening? I was aware that a new hire would arrive, but the CEO as well. What in the world is going on? We shared a quick look and quickly made our way from the conference room to the reception area, understanding that we couldn't hold the CEO back. And we caught sight of her there. "Hey, that's you from before." "Hello there," she said. Sitting next to the CEO was the woman I'd assisted on the train. "Oh, please, let me off the leash. How in the world is this happening?" I pulled my head out of the clouds because I was on the verge of going crazy. It turns out that the woman I assisted today is the CEO's daughter. Her name is Anna Ashton. However, it seems that she has been a bit of a wild child and has struggled to stay with any firm that she has joined. She still struggles to maintain a job since she hasn't been able to break those unhealthy behaviors. She was employed by the CEO as an assistant, but he came under fire from within for being overly forgiving of his relative. Thus, in order to provide her more practical experience, the CEO chose to move her to a branch office. I've heard that today on the train, you assisted my daughter. The CEO bowed to me and said, "As a parent, I appreciate you." I was sweating a lot for a completely other cause after reading this. However, I also discovered why I had been selected. I was in a rush, so Anna didn't realize we worked for the same company until I gave her my business card. She then texted the CEO a picture she had taken of the card. They trusted me with their daughter because, based on their conversation with HR, they believed that, as a team leader, I had some expertise with employee development. To put it another way, this unanticipated circumstance resulted from my act of charity. It's possible that the CEO wants me to raise his daughter so I can get promoted later. However, in my opinion, I've recently been given a challenging new hire. How should I proceed? However, I was at a loss for what to do. I had no alternative but to drop my head when Anna welcomed me with a joyful, "Nice to meet you, Lukey," displaying zero professionalism. And that's when my days started getting incredibly busy. Even the boss appeared to know that this was going to be a difficult task and instructed me to provide non-urgent chores to others while I concentrated on training Anna for a while. I was supposed to have some time because of that. That, however, did not occur. "Anna, what on earth are you doing? What are you trying to say? All I want is food." I had to sigh at the image of Anna viewing the training video while nibbling on a piece of chocolate. It's okay if she's hungry, but at least she could eat out of sight. Is she really so stupid? However, it wasn't the case. Despite her lack of social graces, Anna is not a moron. She demonstrated this by being able to recall basic instructions after only one demonstration. "Hey, Lukey." I completed entering the data after the additional information arrived. "What? Already? You move quickly." Yes, she is. Anna works with amazing efficiency. She rarely makes mistakes and goes above and above what is asked of her. She could easily make ends meet at our central office with this amount of work, but her other troublesome behaviors utterly overshadow it. What a waste it is. She just marginally improves and finally falls back into her old habits despite my repeated cautions. I'm still called Lukey by her. I was at my wit's end after 2 months of training her. Still, I made a commitment to try my hardest to turn her into a capable employee. That day was. What should I do? Lukey's troubled. I was in the break room contemplating when Anna appeared out of nowhere. We have been collaborating for 3 months now. She's competent enough to handle her work by herself now. She still behaves problematically, so I have to watch out for her, but because it's break, I won't bother her. Oh, not at all. Just a few private matters. But even Lukey has worries. How do you perceive me? My mother's birthday is approaching. I have no idea what to gift her. Yes, my mom's birthday is coming up, but I have no idea what to do. Since I'm single, I have no idea what women want to wear. Are you close to your mom? Anna said, tilting her head in response to what I had just spoken. I suppose so. She has always been the kind person. How so? What are you trying to say? Well, Mom always remembered to bring my lunch, even when she was really busy. My mom took care of everything at home, while my dad was frequently gone on business trips. My mother's greatness became evident to me after I moved out on my own and discovered how difficult housework is. I'm trying to decide what to get her for her birthday, but I'd like to commemorate her birthday somehow. Yeah, I understand. I ought to ask Anna. She appears to be more knowledgeable of the tastes and fashions of women. I was about to question her when I suddenly stopped talking. Anna, who is usually really happy, appeared really depressed. Anna, what's wrong? I apologize. My mother doesn't exist. That's the reason I envy your issue. When Anna stated that, she faked a smile, but it vanished fast, and she looked down, looking unhappy once more. The sight of Anna, who I had never seen before, surprised me. She appeared very isolated. I was unable to part from her. Anna, you don't always have to push yourself to smile. You genuinely have to force a smile. You can chat to someone about your problems. I am your trainer, after all. Yes, it is correct. Even at work, Anna rarely expresses her worries. She keeps her anxieties to herself. I was concerned that she might be going too far. You're the first person to say that to me, Anna remarked, widening her eyes in astonishment, and started telling me a story. It told the tale of Anna's earlier years. You know, when I was little, my mom died in an accident. My dad simply lost himself in his work after that, putting me in the hands of a maid. I stared into the distance with her, sharing her gaze. The maid reared me essentially. I'm appreciative of her. I mean, she was paid to look after me, so I guess I am. Thus, I can't help but question whether unconditional love actually exists. Well, I guess that now that I'm an adult, it doesn't really matter. With a laugh, she stated. As I watched her, a thought started to come to me. Perhaps Anna had not received much love as a child. Knowing this, Anna's father, the CEO, couldn't bear to let her go and decided to keep her working for the company. Her actions started to make more sense as she came to that realization. Actually, Anna's bad behavior is limited to people in the workplace who are close to her. She would always be early when there was a business deal, but she sometimes arrived late. She played a lot with me and her close friends, but she was silent around individuals in other areas. Was this how she interacted, I wondered? Creating mischief to capture her father's attention. Is it possible she grew up not comprehending the wrongness of it? Scolding her would not change her conduct because of this. Not because she didn't want to change, but rather because she might not have known how to communicate in a different way. Anna, you're talented, I said. It's time for you to stop engaging in these harmful habits. Luke, you sure do stick with it. It seems like I've improved recently, don't I? Don't sidestep the subject. If you keep doing this, you'll eventually be left behind. That's strange. No one's watching me, so there's nothing to abandon. Anna shot back with a serious expression and a monotone voice, as though she had given up. This, I suppose, was the real her. Nobody notices the real you. It appears that she thinks so. This strange side of Anna astonished me a little, but I couldn't resist. She was in error. "I'll disprove your assertions," I said. "Follow me," taking Anna by the arm and guiding her to a specific location. She was astonished, but obeyed dutifully. I led her to the office floor where we always worked and said, "This is the place." While on break, everyone was talking to each other. I gently cracked open the door a little, letting Anna see what was within. Whoa! Was this document created by Anna? If she hadn't encountered those issues, she was so talented that she could have succeeded at headquarters. I understand, correct? How wasteful. There, among people Anna didn't really know well, everyone was complimenting her. No way. Anna watched the spectacle play out, her eyes growing wide. That is the process, correct? They're observing her work, but they're not the ones she's attempting to attract attention from. I take it that you get it. You no longer need to worry about being recognized since we are seeing you. I'm one of those people, Anna, who sees you without you having to try. I stated this while giving Anna's head a gentle pat and watching her cry silently. Anna's bad conduct significantly decreased after that day. She now takes her work seriously and always arrives on time. That's excellent that there have been adjustments, but there is one small catch. Luke, today's the day you're going to be my boyfriend. I got into this crazy position where Anna tells me she loves me every day for some reason. After our conversation, it looks that Anna really started to trust me, and she began to ask me questions about a variety of topics. She consequently grew rather attached to me, and now tells me she loves me every day. But I had to decline her request. There are lots of wonderful males out there for her, and she's still young. She just seems unable to give up, though. She has been making constant approaches to me for the past 2 weeks. Seeing her make such strong appeals, my feelings were shifting. All right, let's leave. Anna, I believe I've fallen in love. I'm going to be your girlfriend today. Huh. I said just that. All right. Anna's face lit up brilliant crimson in response. She didn't seem to be anticipating the go-ahead, but the next thing I know, she was tearing up and giving me a strong hug while exclaiming, "I did it. I'll put forth a lot of effort. I'll develop into a lady deserving of you. Luke, come live with me always." Hey, all right. This is our office. That's how our dating journey began. However, there are a lot of issues between us. An unpleasant tension exists between Anna's father and her. No, he's a father who thanks me for helping his daughter, so there must be some misunderstanding. I went to Anna's house first to make sure we were on the same page. The CEO, of course, shot me a very cold look. I was getting engaged with his daughter, whom he entrusted to me. Anna was the one who was most taken aback by this response. She believed her father was uninterested in her. And this was the beginning of the big problems. While it was good that her father was showing her compassion, he was against our marriage. They got into a heated argument, but it seemed to be a release for their frustrations. "You always work and don't give me any attention. Now stop acting like a father. Your father is me. I've been concerned for you." Well, it's too late to worry now. Stupidly, after much argumentation, they had a heart-to-heart conversation. The CEO, my father-in-law, did not know how to handle his adult daughter. He pulled away from her out of fear of injuring her. This simply made it harder for him to talk to her, and he started to worry about other things. Anna understood that her father was upset with her and that she was adored. The two of them finally reconciled. Our marriage was duly approved, and we proceeded to meet my parents. Anna was anxious since she had never had a mother. However, my mother remarked, "I'm happy to become your mother," after learning about the circumstances. This moved Anna so much that she began to cry. Furthermore, my mother cooked us dinner, which touched Anna so deeply that she asked my mother to teach her how to cook after saying, "I want to cook this too." They are now the closest of friends. We joyfully got married and became a wonderful family with 3 children after receiving clearance from both families. I've seen my father-in-law at work, but he's so enamored with his grandchild that his severe demeanor has vanished. Despite her amazement at seeing my father-in-law for the first time, Anna remarked, "It feels like we've finally become a family." I'm overjoyed. That's a good thing, I suppose. Anna's pregnancy prevented us from having a wedding, but I hope to see her look beautiful in a wedding gown someday. We carry on living a happy life with those thoughts every day. How was today's story for you? It will inspire me to create more stuff if you click the like and subscribe buttons. I'm excited to read your thoughts in the comments, everyone. Until the next video, see ya. I'm Raymond, and this year marks my 28th birthday. I am employed in sales for a reputable large company. I believe that I perform rather well in sales. This is a result of my hard work at work, as I have never really worked hard at anything else. My father departed due to a divorce when I was too little to remember him, and my mother passed away last year. But ever since my mom passed away, I've been lacking motivation in all aspects of my life, including work. I feel like I'm merely going through the motions at work every day. Something happened after my girlfriend and I broke up. Raymond, the section head, wants to see you in the office. The clerk called to me as soon as I got back from an appointment outdoors. I've never had a good relationship with the department head, mostly because he doesn't understand that I lack motivation. Even though I was the top contract maker last month, it appears he doesn't like it. Dealing with him is a headache since he picks disputes over the most insignificant things. This is Raymond. Could I please enter? I went to the manager's office and knocked on the door. The head of the section and the manager gave me a harsh look. Can you explain what this is about? I was working on an annual contract with a major client when the department head put it in front of me. I had just delegated the task to a junior team member at the team leader's request. Put another way, it was an undertaking that was beyond of my control. Why would you give this to a junior student in such a half-finished state? That is careless. The section head began yelling at me as I was considering what was going on. He believes he can achieve what he wants by threatening and screaming at me. It's obvious that the department leader, who appears to be misinformed, wants to place all the responsibility for this failure on me. All he's saying is negative things about me. After the contract went from me to the junior, I believe the section head likely wanted to take credit for it as his own achievement. The junior came to me the other day and told me he felt that his job had been stolen, which is proof of this. If it worked, it would be to his credit. If not, he could get rid of me, which would be a pain in his side. Very sly. I remained silent as my boss proceeded to chastise me. The manager did nothing but observe. Finally, he gave me my notice of transfer. You're being transferred. Demotion to a client-centered factory was the new task. I accepted the notice without question since I was so exhausted. After that, I looked up the location of my transfer and said, Alaska. There, is it not freezing? My remark caused the manager's veins to burst in his forehead and ended the stillness. Is that all you have to say? The manager then gave me an hour and a half of lectures. Man, this time of year, being seconded. How on earth did you accomplish that? When the factory manager came to see me, he laughed and said this while carrying the transfer notification. I mean, it was a strange time for a transfer. Anyone would think I did something wrong. The factory where I was posted was in the suburbs of Anchorage, Alaska. Being from Los Angeles, I detest the cold. It's freezing for me, even though it's the south of Alaska. There was no trace of summer at all, even though it was almost here. I'm excited to collaborate with you. I've been informed that I will oversee general affairs. Since I have experience in sales, I rely on your direction and rigorous education. Everyone applauded warmly as I bowed deeply and entered the office. I recall that when they responded, I felt relieved and my shoulders relaxed. I was given a room in an old apartment complex as company housing. I've heard that a large number of workers and students who are away from home reside here. The room next to me was occupied by a young man. I suppose he's quite the player, since even though we've just said hello a few times, he always appears to be with a different woman. Perched on a hill, the apartment offers a distant view of the sea. The city lights are stunning at night, and my favorite thing to do after work is open a can of beer and enjoy the view from the balcony. I saw a few kids with paper lanterns in their hands today as I made my way back up the hill to the apartment. It was that fleeting moment in the day between dusk and dawn. I had the impression that I had entered a new dimension. It wasn't until I saw a big bamboo decoration in the daycare's playground halfway up the hill that I realized it was July 7, the day of the Star Festival. The kids are presumably attending a festival. I opened the door to my apartment, thinking that. I undid my necktie and went straight to the refrigerator to get a can of beer. I immediately stepped outside to the balcony and uncorked the drink. On the slope, paper lanterns were swaying in different directions. The children's singing caught my attention as they sang about tassels on bamboo. It's the Star Festival. It had an odd vibe to it and sounded like a kid's song I've never heard before. It's not that horrible to learn little by little about the unknown parts of our region. That was the first time I had thought like that since my transfer. Someone was knocking on my door at that very moment. Nobody in this place knew me well enough to come see me. Without checking the intercom, I opened the door, assuming it was the landlord or the factory manager. A beautiful woman dressed in a robe stood in front of the door. She carried a paper lantern and was dressed in a robe of white and blue. She looked down shyly and sung in a soft, hesitant voice the song the kids had been singing before. For the Star Festival, bamboo, let's rejoice. Please, I need a candle. She buried her face in my chest and put her arms around my neck the next second. I hope she'll pardon me for putting my arms around her waist out of impulse when I'm hugged by a stunning woman in a robe that I just met. I'm shocked when she says, "I want more than just a candle. I want your best," in a somewhat sultry voice. She's not someone I know, though, I assure you. I had to say something for her honor, and I said, "I think you've got the wrong guy." I hope she'll forgive me for speaking louder than I meant to, but I was scared too. "Aren't you Jack?" She looked up at me, actually seeing at my face for the first time, startled by my voice. "Well, not at all. My name is Raymond," I said with a sardonic grin. It seems that she thought I was her boyfriend. In an instant, her face flushed beet red. I could see her long eyelashes trembling around her wide-open eyes up close. "I apologize so much. It appears that I made a mistake," she said, pulling away from me in a hurry. At that precise moment, the door from the adjoining room opened, revealing a happy pair, with the young woman referring to the man as Jack. I realized then what was going on. The sight of the two of us froze the beauty in a robe. The man turned to face us, and she ducked into the front door of my flat to avoid his stare. She pushed me, and I crashed back against my front door. How strange fate is. I was knocked down and imprisoned by a stunning person at the entrance. I waited in silence as the noise of footsteps from the other room subsided in this state. The last pair's footsteps were eventually drowned out by the sound of an elevator door opening and the pitter-patter of tiny feet. I questioned her, softly pulling off her body. "Are you okay?" With a stunned expression, the stunning woman in her robe withdrew from me and took a seat. Her side profile was lovely, but a little depressing. "I apologize. In addition to making a mistake, I also started this annoyance. I truly wanted to take him by surprise." She apologized to me, lowering her head and gripping her robe tightly. One tear fell to the back of her tightly closed fist. I went to stroke her shoulder in an attempt to console her. But at that moment, the partially open front door flew open. "Star wishes on bamboo in honor of the Star Festival. Let's rejoice. Please give me a candle." Children dressed in robes were standing there, singing a joyful song and each holding a lantern. They extended their arms. "All right, all right," exclaimed the stunning woman dressed in a robe. She took out sweets from a plastic bag she carried and started giving them to the children. The kids gleefully rushed off toward the next house, carrying candies. It was uncannily similar to Halloween, and I watched the spectacle play out in silence. "Is this something like trick or treat?" I inquired with the attractive woman wearing a robe who was dropping off the kids. The robed beauty gave me a startled glance. She then spoke softly, as though knowing, "You're not from around here. This is a gathering for candles. Kids wander around houses like this on the day of the Star Festival in order to collect candy. The kids appear to be more interested in candies these days, but it seems like they used to really get candles back in the day." She held out her hand to me as she spoke. I was able to stand at last, thanks to her support. "I feel ashamed. I try my hardest, but it didn't work out," she remarked, appearing somewhat relieved. "I made an attempt because I've been told since high school that I'm not cute. Rather silly, The attractive woman in a robe appeared to be a neighbor I knew a little bit. I reasoned that perhaps he might pick me among the other women. I'd wanted to console her since I was feeling down, but I was at a loss for words. She smiled slightly at me while I remained silent. She then repeatedly apologized to me and gave me a gift of a mound of candies. I ought to have gotten her name. With a gentle chime, the elevator doors closed, and I was a little regretful. A week later, I saw the beautiful woman in a robe once more, this time at the manufacturing office. I didn't recognize her at first as she had changed so much in appearance. She introduced herself as, "I'm Alice Mitchell, the consulting attorney," as she put on her elegantly tailored black suit. The subtle yet expertly applied makeup looked great on her. Her lips were painted a delicate beige, but they were a charming pink when she wore a robe. "Thank you for the other day." When she whispered in a voice only I could hear, I had to look twice. She appears to be this factory's legal advisor. The plant manager says she's a very competent female lawyer who operates a law office close to the company residences. Alice approached me, startled by the sudden reunion, and said, "I wanted to apologize for the other day." You already know our friend," I replied. "Alice, pay attention. Alice has never been lucky when it comes to guys. She recently developed feelings for a young man. Having known Alice since she was a young child, the factory manager began to spread rumors about her personal life. Alice covered the manager's mouth with her palm in a panic to silence him. "You don't have to talk about that." Alice pouted at the manager of the plant, looking rather like a little child. She offered to apologize, and I chose to accept it. We decided to meet for supper and trade phone numbers. I realized that since coming here, I had never exchanged personal contact information before. I want to giggle thinking about our first meeting. I think she noticed that on my face. Alice, who was talking about her job, shot me a quick glance and said, "Don't." I shot her a sidelong glance of guilt. My heart was beating very strongly, and it felt like we were talking in private. Later, I got into a fight with Alice over food. It was a pleasant mood at first. Everything was going well until we had a little wine at this lovely Western restaurant on the harbor. I believe we were both feeling tipsy as the dinner was coming to a conclusion. I am not a good drinker. Although I don't think I have a nasty temperament when I'm intoxicated, I do have a tendency to express my genuine emotions a little. "Do you like younger men?" I asked Alice that out of the blue when she informed me she had split up with that man. The air around our table seemed to cool off by 2 degrees for a brief period of time. In spite of my impolite inquiry, Alice smiled maturely. What a rude man to ask something like that. She set her wine glass down on the surface. Our relationship's affected by age. However, isn't the man who lives next door a college student? Are you about 35 years old? Isn't that a little hazardous, Alice? I ran into the neighbor in the elevator the day following the disturbance, and we spoke briefly. The news that he was still a college student astonished me. Alice corrected me about her age. I'm only 32, her voice trembling. Are you serious? For a college student, there really isn't much of a difference between 35 and 32. It may look that both ages are old hags. It's true that alcohol can be frightening. I believe that at the moment I was merely attempting to get her attention. I kept pushing her boundaries with my remarks. It doesn't really help to regret it when you're sober, does it? I'm an old hag, but there's a big difference between 32 and 35. What in what way? Alice lost patience at that point. She glared at me as she got up from her chair. If you round up, there's a big difference between 30 and 40, you idiot. That's the point where my recollection stops. It seems like someone whacked me over the head with a baguette. I discovered the hard way that evening that even tough bread may be lethal. Alice has been ignoring me ever since that evening. She works at a legal office next to my apartment complex, and whenever she sees me on her way back, she turns to avoid eye contact. I'm trying to find the appropriate occasion to offer apologies, but I'm having trouble. I learned that my old main office coworkers were going to Anchorage around 6 months after I was moved to the plant. I was approached by an old coworker who proposed a meeting. It seems like they intended to come to this factory. I was excited to see my old coworkers, but my excitement was somewhat dashed when I learned that the former manager would also be there. The main office group arrived in Anchorage for their vacation a few days later. They also visited our factory, one of their suppliers, for a tour. It was good to see my former coworkers again, unaltered, and even solicited for advice regarding their jobs. I generally simply handled factory attendance, so everyone at the office was shocked to see me offering the elite guidance from the main office. Hey Raymond, you're remarkably trustworthy. Why were you moved to this location? I was graciously brought some Misty by the manufacturing manager. I gave a hazy response, saying that there were several reasons why things eventually cooled down. That day, Alice was also at work, and I could feel her watchful eyes. Hey Raymond, come here. My former manager was the one who was so haughtily summoning me over. At the office door, he was waving at me. I sighed heavily and rose to follow his urging. A long time has passed. I appreciate you being there the other day. A salutation with a tinge of irony. The former head of the section put on a pouting expression. It seems that he knew what he was doing. You haven't told anyone, right? In response to the manager's remarks, I gave a nod. The division head called me in and said the same thing when I was reassigned here and left the main office. I became tired of him always blaming me for turning the client over to my junior, even though it could have been his fault in the end. Maybe you didn't remember, but you gave me the instruction to give the client to my junior, right? Additionally, I've heard that you were the junior's mentor. The manager appeared taken aback, not anticipating a response from me. Seldom did he say, "You're speaking too loudly." You do understand that it would be problematic if someone heard, right? Panicking, the section head looked silly, and I couldn't help but laugh. A boss who installs his own subordinates and then gloats about it is not someone I need. That contract trouble, anyway, was your responsibility. You do realize that it has nothing to do with me. The section head abruptly ended the chat as my other employees who had completed the tour were congregating close to the office. I sighed heavily when I saw him re-enter the circle of the main company. I seemed to be harboring some residual affections for the headquarters. That was undoubtedly aided by being stimulated and re-establishing contact with former coworkers. A small part of me lamented not being able to go back to that circle. Alice was standing behind me and appeared to have been there for some time. I didn't mean to listen. It seems that she had heard me talking to the section head. Nevertheless, she declared, errors must be fixed. I've accepted that it's all in the past. I responded in a non-committal manner since I didn't want to deal with this matter once more. Alice gave me a worried look as she glanced at me. She looked at my face for a bit before letting out a tiny sigh. Are you aware of the facial expression you're making? You seem to be quite depressed. Would you please be truthful? I'd prefer not to see your face. Raymond Alice pointed it out, and I hardly touched my face. It humiliated me to be seen looking that way. It's the most uncool thing ever to pretend to be regretting something while still having given up. I'm acting like I have no residual sentiments, which is incredibly uncool. I told Alice how I really felt, covering my shaking mouth with my hand. It seemed impossible for me to lie to her. It's not a bad thing. It's acceptable to persist in pursuing your goals. Come back to where you belong. I'll assist you, Alice remarked, her words of encouragement beaming from her eyes. Saying thank you, I bowed my head. Leave it to me, she smiled in response. Then a string of busy days started. I gathered proof of the manager's misconduct with the help of my former coworkers. It turned out that not only had I been held accountable for his errors, but other coworkers had also had their successes taken advantage of. As we investigated every illegal detail, the accusations continued to mount. Alice worked hard to get the paperwork ready to file the manager's accusation. Alice looked at the petition my former coworkers had started calling for my return to the headquarters and said, "You're surprisingly popular despite being the kind of person who'd say such terrible things to me," looking surprised. It seems that she was still upset with me for what transpired that evening. I sincerely apologized for that moment. I drank too much because I felt anxious. I admitted. I got too intoxicated because I was anxious about spending time alone myself with you. Nervous about being with an old woman like me, she said with a giggle. I felt like Alice could look right through me. I took a big breath and looked up at her. That day, I really wanted to make a move on you, but I just couldn't say it. Alice smiled contentedly at what I had said. Then she abruptly ended the talk by saying, "We'll continue this later." My confession seems to have been ignored. Subsequently, the head office successfully accused. Alice was so happy to hear from me that she began saying, "I'm glad," over and over. I can now go back to the main office. That's excellent news, is it not? From my phone, I could hear Alice's voice with a trace of sadness. And with that, I decided. To cheer her up, I made the decision to board the final flight. I was eager to see Alice's face once more. I hurried to Alice's legal practice after grabbing a taxi at the airport. In the office, the lights were still on even though it was already late. I'm back. Alice had been working alone, overtime, when I knocked on her door at her law office. "Wow, you've returned already. Greetings on your arrival back to headquarters. When will you return?" Alice dropped the documents she was studying and began to spin her pen on her slender fingers. Her cheeks were flushed a little. "Are you going to bring in a secretary? I believe I could perform the task fairly effectively." Startled, Alice let her pen fall to the ground. "What? Why? How is the headquarters doing?" I choose to be truthful with myself. I informed her that I had filed my resignation and turned down the invitation to go back to head office. "All I want is to spend my entire life with you, Alice. Is that detrimental?" "There's no reason that would be bad." She gave a halting response. She probably showed me that it's okay to struggle toward the future you want, and that it's not something to be ashamed of. She also made me realize, for the first time in my life, how important it is to be true to yourself. "Yes, but you're not hiring here. Forward your resume to the management of the factory." Her tone abruptly changed to one of business, and I missed the reddening of her cheeks. She is my eternal partner in life. I want the future to be one in which she is at my side no matter what, and I will stop at nothing to make that happen.